Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going deep into Expo. Specifically, their brand new SDK 52 beta.
Yeah.
You sent over the release notes. Let me tell you, I'm already geeking out over here.
I don't blame you.
Like, there's a lot to unpack.
There is.
This isn't just like a minor version bump.
Right.
SDK 52 signals a major shift.
It does.
In how Expo apps are built.
Yeah.
Thanks to the full rollout of React Native's new architecture.
Huge change.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to admit, hearing new architecture always gets me a little nervous.
Sure.
Can you break that down a bit?
Yeah.
What's changing?
Well, at a high level.
And what does it mean for someone who is building apps with Expo?
At a high level, the new architecture is really about revolutionizing how JavaScript talks to the native parts of your app.
Okay.
It's like they finally got a universal translator that speaks both languages fluently. The result? Faster, smoother, more responsive apps.
So if I'm picturing this right, my Expo apps will feel snappier.
Yes.
Animations will be buttery smooth.
Yep.
Users won't be left waiting for things to load.
That's the goal.
Sign me up.
Right.
Yeah.
And the best part is, with SDK 52, the new architecture is now the default for all new Expo projects.
Okay.
It's a huge step forward for the platform, showing their commitment to this modern approach.
That's huge. But what about those of us
Yeah.
with existing Expo projects?
Yeah.
Do we need to, like, scramble to rewrite everything?
Don't panic. You don't have to rewrite everything just yet.
Okay.
For existing projects, it's opt-in for now.
Got it.
But I would strongly encourage you to make the switch when you can.
Yeah.
There might be a little bit of a learning curve, but trust me, the long-term benefits are well worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So new projects get it automatically. Existing projects can opt in.
That's right.
And speaking of existing projects,
Yeah.
what about testing?
Sure.
A lot of us rely on Expo Go during development.
Yep.
How does the new architecture affect that workflow?
That's a great question. Yeah.
Moving forward, Expo Go is fully embracing the new architecture.
Okay.
What this means is that to use Expo Go effectively for testing,
Yeah.
you'll need to be on SDK 52 or higher
Okay.
and have opted into the new architecture.
Gotcha.
If you're still working with an older SDK, you can still test your app by creating a development build.
Okay.
But Expo Go won't cut it anymore.
Okay, so that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
It sounds like this new architecture transition is going to be a key theme for Expo developers in the coming months.
Yeah, definitely.
But looking beyond the new architecture,
Sure.
it seems SDK 52 is packed with other updates as well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
The Expo team has been incredibly busy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to get excited about.
Yeah.
They've really focused on enhancing some core libraries.
Okay.
And there's some really shiny new features to explore.
Well, let's get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
What are some of the headliner updates that jumped out at you?
Video is a big one.
Yeah. With this release, Expo Video has finally reached stable status,
Okay.
which means it's now the recommended way to work with video in your Expo apps.
I have to admit I've been waiting for this.
I bet.
Does this mean we can finally kiss the old Expo-F goodbye?
You can absolutely say goodbye to the old Expo for video.
Right?
It's officially deprecated.
Good.
Expo Video is built from the ground up to be more stable, more performant, and far more user-friendly.
So what makes Expo Video so much better?
Well,
Give it the juicy details.
For starters, it simply works.
Okay.
It handles different video formats gracefully
Yeah.
and different playback situations without breaking a sweat. Plus, it comes with a bunch of new features
Okay.
that Expo-F could only dream of,
Yeah.
like lock screen controls
Okay.
and picture-in-picture mode.
Wow.
Imagine your users can now keep watching their videos,
Yeah.
even when they switch apps or unlock their phone.
That's awesome.
All right.
So more stability, better performance, and cool new features. It's a win-win-win for video.
It is.
And looking at the release notes, it seems audio's getting some love too.
Yes.
What's happening there?
Expo is introducing the new expo-audio library,
Okay.
which is all about giving developers a modern, sleek, and streamlined API for working with audio.
Nice.
Whether you're dealing with sound effects,
Yeah.
background music, or even recording audio,
Yeah.
this new library aims to make it incredibly intuitive.
Okay, so video and audio are getting some major upgrades.
They are.
What else is new and shiny in SDK 52?
There's also a brand new beta version of the file system API.
Okay.
called Expo File-System Next,
Okay.
which simplifies working with files in your apps.
Nice.
Reading and writing data is now easier than ever.
Okay.
Plus, they've introduced synchronous operations,
Oh, nice.
which can be really handy in certain situations.
And I'm seeing Expo cameras getting some attention, too.
Yes.
What's happening over there?
They've made a ton of improvements to Expo camera, making it much more robust and reliable.
Nice.
One of the key changes is the switch to Swift concurrency on iOS, which makes the camera setup process much smoother.
Yeah.
And helps avoid those annoying configuration errors that used to pop up.
Very nice.
Right.
So better video, better audio, easier file handling, a more reliable camera.
Yep.
These are some seriously substantial updates.
Yes.
But wait, hold on.
Uh-oh, what is it?
I'm seeing something here called DOM components.
Okay.
And this sounds really interesting.
It is.
Okay, so ELI 5.
Okay.
What are DOM components?
Imagine this.
Okay.
You've got this amazing web component built with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that you want to use in your Expo app.
Okay.
Traditionally, this would have been a huge headache.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But with DOM components, you can take that web component and embed it directly into your native app.
Hold on. Are you saying I can take a chunk of my website, say an interactive map or a fancy chart, and just plop it into my Expo app without having to rebuild it in React Native?
That's the magic of DOM components.
Mind blown.
It unlocks all sorts of possibilities.
Yeah.
You can reuse web code, integrate web libraries, and even streamline migrations from web apps to native.
This feels like it could really blur the lines between web and native development even further.
Absolutely.
But is this ready for prime time?
It's early days for DOM components.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
There are some limitations. For instance, updates don't work with Expo updates just yet.
Okay.
But the potential is immense.
Yeah.
The Expo team is actively working on it.
Okay.
And I think we're going to see some incredibly creative uses for it down the line.
Yeah.
Think custom maps, interactive elements. The possibilities are endless.
I can already imagine the possibility.
I know, me too.
So we've covered the new architecture, revamped video and audio libraries, a new file system, API camera improvements, and these groundbreaking DOM components.
It's a lot.
Before we dive into the nitty-gritty details, are there any other noteworthy updates you want to highlight?
Absolutely. Building upon those major changes, there are also some significant updates to other core modules. For instance, Expo Image now has a powerful new hook called Use Image, which makes loading and managing images much more efficient.
Nice.
And then there's Expo Image Manipulator, which has a brand new API that's both faster and more flexible.
So even more under-the-hood improvements to make Expo apps run smoother and more efficiently.
Exactly.
This is already a lot to take in.
I know, right?
But I know we also need to talk about those deprecations and breaking changes that come with any major update.
Yeah.
What should developers be aware of?
Right. Let's shift gears.
And talk about what's going away. Or changing in ways that might require adjustments to your code. One of the big ones is a change to push notifications in Expo. Go on Android.
Push notifications can be a bit tricky.
Yeah, they can be.
What's going on there?
Well, starting with SDK 53, push notifications will no longer be supported in Expo Go on Android.
Wait, so if I'm testing my app in Expo Go on Android and using push notifications, I'm out of luck.
Not entirely. This change is specifically for Expo Go. Push notifications will still work perfectly fine in development builds.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
But why the change?
The Expo team wants to make the transition from testing in Expo Go to working with development builds as smooth and transparent as possible. Push notifications involve a lot of native configuration, and making them work seamlessly in Expo Go was always a bit of a workaround.
So now developers will need to set up push notifications correctly when they create a development build, which is ultimately a better practice.
So less convenient for quick testing in Expo Go.
That's true.
But it forces developers to set up push notifications properly from the start. Which is probably a good thing in the long run.
Exactly.
And there's a similar change happening with Google Maps support. In Expo Go on Android.
That's right.
Let me guess, it's going away.
You got it.
Okay.
Just like with push notifications, the idea is to make the development experience more transparent.
Okay.
Using Google Maps requires specific API keys and configurations.
Yeah.
And managing that within Expo Go was becoming complex.
Makes sense.
So from SDK 53 onwards,
okay,
you'll need to use a development build if you want to work with Google Maps on Android.
Okay.
Keep in mind that Apple Maps will still be supported on iOS within Expo.
Okay. No more push notifications or Google Maps in Expo. Go on Android, starting with SDK 53.
That's correct.
Got it.
What about other deprecations?
Anything else we should flag?
A few things, yes.
Okay.
CRSQLite support in expo-sqlite is being deprecated.
Okay.
And as we discussed earlier, the old expo-av video API is officially being replaced by the shiny new expo-video.
Those make sense.
Yep.
Now on to the breaking changes.
Okay.
Anything that could potentially make our apps go boom.
The most significant breaking change, and it's tied to the new architecture rollout,
Yeah.
is that Expo Go will now exclusively use Hermes as its JavaScript engine.
So if I'm still using JSC in my Expo app, I'll need to switch to Hermes if I want to test in Expo Go.
That's right.
Got it.
But there's a good chance you might already be using Hermes without even realizing it.
Yeah.
As it's been the default for new Expo projects for a while now.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other breaking changes to be aware of?
Just a few minor things. Some legacy modules like Expo Camera Legacy and expo-sqlite Legacy are being removed.
Okay.
So you'll need to switch to their non-legacy counterparts if you're still using those.
Got it.
There are also some smaller changes, like the removal of an unused privacy field in app.json.
Okay.
And the discontinuation of Create React Native App.
Okay, so a handful of breaking changes.
Yep.
Mostly focused on cleaning up older code.
Yeah.
And aligning everything with the new architecture.
That's right.
It sounds like if you've been keeping your Expo projects relatively up to date, the migration to SDK 52 shouldn't be too painful.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the Expo team has done a great job providing migration guides and documentation that help developers through the process.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wow, we've covered a ton of ground already.
I know we have.
And we're not even done yet.
Not even close.
There's still so much more to explore in SDK 52.
Yes.
But for now, let's take a pause and catch our breath.
Take a breather.
When we come back, we'll discuss how to actually get your hands dirty with this new SDK and start building something awesome.
I'm excited for that.
Stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Expo SDK 52.
Yes, let's talk about how to actually get our hands dirty with this new SDK.
All right.
Where do we begin?
Well, the best way to start is to dive right in and experience it firsthand. The beta is available right now. And you can easily spin up a new project using the beta version of the Expo CLI.
So if I open up my terminal and type something like npx create expo app template default at beta.
You got it.
I'll have a fresh Expo project running SDK 52.
That command will set you up with the latest and greatest, including all the new features we've discussed, and of course the default new architecture setup.
That's easy enough.
It is.
Now what about those of us who are already working on existing Expo projects?
Is there an equally simple way to upgrade?
Yeah. Upgrading is pretty straightforward as well. You can use your favorite package manager, like npm install expo at nextfix, or yarn add expo at next to update your Expo dependencies. Then run npx expo install fix to make sure all your dependencies are compatible.
Gotcha.
The Expo team has also developed a really helpful native project upgrade helper that can guide you through any changes you might need to make to your native code.
Sounds relatively painless.
It should be, yeah.
But testing is critical, right?
Of course.
How can we make sure our app is playing nicely with SDK 52, especially with the new architecture in the mix?
There are a couple of ways to approach testing. You can use EAS, Expo's cloud-based build service, to create a build of your app with SDK 52. This allows you to test your app in a realistic environment without having to set up everything locally. Alternatively, if you have Xcode or Android Studio set up on your machine, you can pre-build your app and run it on a simulator or a physical device.
So test in the cloud? Or on my local machine?
Both good options. And what about Expo Go?
Yeah, can we still use that for quick testing with SDK 52?
Yes, you can definitely still use Expo Go.
Okay.
But with the caveats we mentioned earlier,
right.
Make sure you have the latest version of Expo Go installed on your device, and then launch your project through the Expo CLI.
Okay.
Just remember those limitations we talked about.
Right.
Push notifications and Google Maps won't be supported on Android and Expo Go with SDK 52.
Right. Those limitations are important to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So we create a new project, upgrade an existing one.
Yep.
Test everything thoroughly.
Right.
What's the next step?
What indeed?
I'm ready to actually start building something with SDK 52.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
Once you have SDK 52 set up and running, the best thing you can do is spend some time with the documentation. The Expo team has been diligently updating it to reflect all the changes in this release. So it's your go-to resource for learning about the new features, APIs, and how to make the most of them.
And what about the Expo community?
Oh, the community's fantastic.
I imagine there are going to be a lot of developers experimenting with SDK 52.
Absolutely.
Encountering challenges.
Of course.
And sharing their experience.
Are there good places to connect and learn from each other?
Yeah.
Absolutely. The Expo community is one of the best things about the platform.
I agree.
They're incredibly active and always willing to help if you run into any roadblocks, have questions, or simply want to share your experiences. The Expo forums and the Expo Discord server are fantastic resources.
Yeah. I've always found the Expo community to be incredibly supportive.
Me too.
It's amazing how much you can learn just by browsing the forums and seeing how other developers are solving problems.
It really feels like a collaborative journey.
But speaking of problem solving, I'm sure there'll be some bumps in the road as people start using SDK 52. If we encounter bugs or issues, what's the best way to report them? And help the Expo team make this release even better?
If you come across any bugs or regressions, the most effective way to help
is to report them directly on the Expo GitHub repository.
Gotcha.
When you report an issue, make sure to provide as much detail as possible. A clear description of the problem steps to reproduce it, and any relevant logs or code snippets. That might help the Expo team understand what's going on.
Makes sense.
They're incredibly responsive to bug reports.
That's great to know.
Yeah.
It feels good to know that our feedback can directly contribute to making Expo even better.
Absolutely.
Now, before we move on,
I
want to circle back to something that really caught my attention.
Okay.
Those DOM components we talked about earlier.
I'm still blown away by the possibilities they unlock.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on how this feature could change the way we approach Expo development?
I absolutely believe DOM components have the potential to be a game changer.
Yeah.
Especially for developers who are already familiar with building for the web. Imagine being able to take existing web components, maybe complex visualizations built with D3.js, interactive maps, or anything you can dream up with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and seamlessly integrate them into your Expo apps.
That's what excites me the most.
I know.
It feels like it could open up Expo development to a wider range of developers.
Even those without deep native development experience. If you can build for the web, you can build for native with Expo.
It's a powerful concept.
It is.
But with all this focus on web integration and blurring the lines between web and native, do you think there's a risk that Expo might lose some of its native essence?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah. And it's something I'm sure a lot of Expo developers are thinking about. I believe it's important to remember that at its core, Expo's mission is still very much focused on making native app development easier and more accessible.
So it's about giving developers options and flexibility.
Exactly.
Not forcing them down a specific path.
Ultimately, it's up to each developer
Yeah.
to choose the approach that best suits their needs and project goals.
That's what I love about Expo.
Too.
It's constantly evolving, pushing boundaries, and always putting developers first.
Absolutely.
It's an exciting time to be building with Expo, wouldn't you say?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It feels like we're on the cusp of a new era of Expo development.
Yeah.
And I'm eager to see what the community creates with all these powerful new tools.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Sure.
we still have one more part of our deep dive to go.
That's right.
We need to delve into those release notes. Yeah.
Dissect the changelog.
Let's go full changelog spelunker.
Yes, let's go full changelog spelunker.
And see if there are any hidden gems we might have missed.
And see what other treasures we can unearth.
Exactly.
Stay with us. We'll be back in a flash. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Expo SDK 52.
All right.
We've talked about the big picture, the headline features, and the key changes developers need to know about.
Right.
Now it's time to grab our magnifying glasses.
Yes.
And delve into the release notes themselves.
It's time to go full changelog spelunker.
Yeah, let's go full changelog spelunker.
We've got the release notes right here.
Okay.
And trust me, there are some fascinating details hidden within these lines of text.
I'm ready to unearth some hidden treasures.
Where do we begin our changelog excavation?
Yeah, where do we start?
Let's start with some platform-level updates.
Okay.
That might not be flashy, but definitely impact your development process. SDK 52 raises the minimum supported iOS version to 15.1, aligning with React Native 0.76. This means you can confidently use newer iOS features and APIs, knowing that your app will have a solid foundation on supported devices.
So a higher baseline for iOS.
Right.
Which makes sense considering how much iOS has evolved in recent years.
It has.
What's happening on the Android side of things?
Android gets a boost too.
Okay.
The minimum SDK version is now 24.
Okay.
And the compile SDK version is 35.
Gotcha.
Again, this keeps Expo in sync with React Native and ensures you're building your Android apps with the latest tools and compatibility.
Keeping pace with the platform evolution. I like it.
What else is catching your eye as you scan through these notes?
There's an update for developers using EAS build that's worth mentioning.
Oh yeah, EAS build.
The default worker image for iOS builds is now macOS 14.6 with Xcode 16.
Right.
This means your builds are running on the latest and greatest.
That's right.
Ensuring a smooth and reliable build process. So a more stable and up-to-date build environment for EAS build users.
Yep.
Always a good thing.
I'm seeing a section here about Expo Modules API.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you shed some light on what's happening there?
The Expo Modules API is the foundation on which those fantastic Expo modules we all rely on are built.
Okay.
In SDK 52, they've made some under-the-hood refinements that will make life easier for module developers.
Right.
For example, there's enhanced support for sharing shared refs between packages, which can lead to performance improvements and cleaner, more concise code.
Shared refs, intriguing.
Yeah, it's a bit technical, but it's good stuff.
So while most of us might not interact with this directly, it sounds like the Expo team is always refining the underlying architecture.
They are always working on it.
Which ultimately benefits everyone building Expo apps.
Exactly. It's like upgrading the foundation of a house.
Yeah.
It's not always visible,
but
it makes the whole structure stronger and more resilient.
Now, before we move on, there are a couple of smaller but noteworthy updates I'd like to point out.
Okay, let's hear them.
Expo DevTools plugins can now handle binary payloads.
Nice.
Opening up possibilities for even more advanced tooling and debugging workflows.
Very cool.
And for those meticulously crafting the visual aspects of their apps, they've added support for iOS 18 tinted icons.
Tinted icons, yeah. Tell me more. iOS 18 introduced this feature where it tries to tint your app icons to match the system appearance. It's a bit controversial,
Is it?
as it doesn't always produce the most visually appealing results. But Expo is now giving you the ability to provide a separate icon, specifically designed to be tinted, giving you more control over how your app is presented.
So more control over the nuances of app icons in the ever-changing landscape of iOS.
Exactly.
Excellent. What else have we got tucked away in these release notes?
Well, we've got some bug fixes, of course.
Of course.
They addressed an issue with environment variables and embedded Expo config. Which is a big win for those who rely on environment variables to manage different configurations. They've also made some improvements to Expo notifications, making push notifications even more reliable.
Nice.
And for those who spend a lot of time debugging, they've replaced the older JavaScript debugger with the more modern and powerful React Native DevTools.
Bug fixes, tooling improvements, and a more streamlined debugging experience.
That's what we like to hear.
Music to my ears.
Yes.
Is there anything else in the changelog that's piqued your interest?
There's one more detail I saved for last.
Okay.
And it's particularly exciting.
Okay.
Remember we talked about Expo Router earlier?
Yeah.
And how it's shaping the future of navigation in Expo apps?
Yeah.
Well, there's a small note in the changelog mentioning an early preview of server components.
Hold on, server components.
And server actions within Expo Router.
Like the feature that's been generating so much buzz in the React world lately.
The one and only.
Okay.
It's still very early days.
Okay.
Not ready for prime time yet.
Gotcha.
But the fact that Expo Router is already experimenting with server components is incredibly intriguing.
That's exciting.
It suggests that Expo is forward-thinking, embracing the future of React development and exploring ways to bring those innovations to the Expo ecosystem.
So a glimpse into the future of Expo.
Yeah.
Potentially powered by the magic of server components.
This release is shaping up to be much more than just an incremental update. It feels like we've barely scratched the surface.
I agree.
Of all the changes and enhancements packed into SDK 52 beta.
This has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
I'm already feeling inspired.
Me too.
To go build something amazing with all these new tools and improvements.
That's what we want to hear.
But before we wrap up,
okay,
what final words of wisdom would you offer to our listeners?
I'd say embrace the change.
Okay.
Dive into the beta. And don't hesitate to explore all the new features. Break things, experiment.
Okay.
And most importantly, share your experiences with the Expo community.
Yes.
Your feedback and insights are invaluable.
I love that.
In shaping the future of this incredible platform.
Well said. Be curious.
Yeah.
Be bold.
Love it.
And remember that we're all in this together.
Absolutely.
It's the collaborative spirit of the Expo community that makes it so special.
I agree.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Expo SDK 52.
Wow.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
From the headline-grabbing features to the hidden gems.
Yes.
Tucked away in those detailed release notes.
So much to explore.
We hope you're feeling as energized and excited about the future of Expo as we are.
I am, for sure.
Go forth, build amazing things, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.